So Nobody 2 was directed by Timo Tjahjanto, and it stars Bob Odenkirk once again returning as Hutch Manziel. Also features the return of Connie Nielsen, Christopher Lloyd. Also features some new faces this time, including Sharon Stone and Colin Hanks. And in this movie, taking place sometime after the events of the first Nobody movie, Hutch Manziel decides to take his family out on a vacation to an old water park that he used to go to with his family and such. However, some crazy people are there, and basically he has to take action to his own hands and basically kick some more ass. So this was a movie that, admittedly, I was not looking forward to a lot. I thought First Nobody was, while fun, it wasn't really that amazing. I wasn't as mind blown by it as a lot of people were. So I was kind of surprised that there was a sequel to this movie. The first movie didn't do too well, but then again, due to the circumstances of the first movie, it clearly wasn't going to do that well. So this movie, it looks like a lot of fun. I've kind of figured if you like the first Nobody movie, you'll probably like this movie about as much too. And having watched this movie, I can say, yeah, your enjoyment of this movie is going to depend on whether or not you enjoyed the first Nobody movie. I thought the first movie was fine, and so I think this movie is fine. If you love the first Nobody movie, then I think you're going to love this movie just as much. And if you hate the first Nobody movie, then don't even bother. I feel like this movie is not really going to bring in new people to this franchise. But there are definitely things about this movie that I do like. First off, I do think the action sequences are pretty fun. They are pretty funny. They are over the top and insane. They kind of remind me a lot of Home Alone, and I kind of got that aspect of this movie. Some people have said, oh, it's Home Alone meets Vacation, but I don't know if it works out as well, which I'll talk about in my negatives. But when it's the action sequences, they are a lot of fun. They are over the top. They are crazy. They are insane. They are the reason to see this movie. And as far as the acting goes, Bob Odenkirk once again delivers as Hutch Manziel. I thought he was pretty good in this role. Connie Nielsen, I thought she was pretty good. She was the only other family member that I actually liked in this movie. As far as some of the new characters, the ones who kind of stood out to me were Sharon Stone and Colin Hanks as these villains. I thought they were clearly over the top. They were clearly ridiculous. It kind of looked like they were just kind of chewing the scenery at times, but they were clearly having fun while making this movie. I feel like that's kind of like the main goal of this movie, was like not to necessarily make the most serious movie out there. Again, kind of like with Freakier Friday, I wasn't expecting the most serious movie out there from this, but I was expecting a good time, and I got a good time about as much as I got it from the from Freakier Friday, if I'm being honest. So, and there are definitely some fun moments. There are definitely some funny moments. Again, some of the action sequences, there can be some really good jokes here and there, but I feel like it's mostly just the action sequences that are the star of the show. They're just completely insane. They're over the top. They're just really fun overall. But let's talk about some things I don't like about this movie. Now, some people have said that it's kind of like Home Alone meets Family Vacation, but with like a hint of something like, say, John Wick. And I don't know if I quite see that. I can definitely understand the vacation aspect, but only because, like, they're on a vacation in this movie. But I felt like the kids themselves, they're not necessarily interesting. I found like their performances to be just okay, and I found like I feel like any child actor could have played these characters, and I would have felt the same, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't really get the whole vacation aspect, only other than the fact that they are on a vacation. It's definitely works more as just a movie that's clearly paying homage to something like, say, Home Alone, rather than something like National Lampoon's Vacation. Also, I do think that there are some pacing issues in this movie. The movie is only 90 minutes long, but I feel like when it's not an action sequence, it's just not nearly as interesting. Also, I don't really find I find that the mystery of this movie is kind of just missing. Now, the first Nobody, it was kind of like implied that this guy's, again, he's just a nobody, so it's like he's just some regular guy. So when all of a sudden he kind of just starts kicking random people's asses, it kind of feels shocking and actually kind of makes sense. It's like, pushing it. It's like, how far can you go to protect your family when you don't really do anything like that? That was very interesting from the first movie in retrospect, but this movie, I feel like a lot of that mystery is just kind of gone now, in that he's kind of doing all these things again, and it doesn't really add much to the overall lore of this movie. I feel like it was just another movie to kind of have another movie in this franchise, unfortunately. So I felt like it just wasn't nearly as interesting as it was the first time. Also, the movie kind of is just kind of the same setup as the first movie, which that was kind of one of the things I didn't like about the first movie. And I feel like this is the same thing with this movie too. So if you have seen Nobody, you can kind of know like how the beginning and basically how it begins is kind of the same way it began in the first movie. That's kind of what I don't like about this movie. And there are more flashbacks in this movie, in the flashbacks, and it's just, I felt like, wait, so there's a flashback in the flashback, so it's just kind of losing myself. It's more of a movie where I applauded more for the action scenes and Bob Odenkirk just giving it his all. Who would have guessed that an SNL writer would be an action star like this? But it can be fun, it can be over the top and exciting, but your enjoyment of this movie mainly hinges on whether or not you love the first Nobody movie. Again, you love the first one, go and see this movie. If you think the movie's okay, maybe wait to rent this one, or maybe wait for a hit to streaming services or something. Or if you don't like the Nobody movies, or if you didn't like the first Nobody, don't bother, because this movie is not really going to entice you. So, Nobody. The action sequences are the scene stealers in this movie. They are incredible. They are a lot of fun. They are exciting. They're over the top. Also, the acting is pretty good for the most part. Bob Odenkirk, Connie Nielsen, I thought she was better here than she was in the first movie. Sharon Stone and Colin Hanks are a little bit more fun as the villains than the villains from the first movie. There are some funny moments. There are some nice homages to, like, Home Alone and such. But I felt like the whole National Lampoon's Vacation aspect is just kind of not entirely thought out through. I felt the actual structure of the movie wasn't really that interesting. I felt like the mystery was kind of gone. The kids themselves were not really interesting as characters. I felt like this movie, again, I was not really the biggest fan of the first Nobody movie, so this is kind of me saying, yeah, this is kind of what I expected from this movie, so it's not really that surprising to me. I'll give Nobody 2.5 out of 4 stars. Stream it. So, what is your favorite or least favorite action movie sequel? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.